Good morning, everyone. Welcome, welcome, welcome to Unity of Charlotte. So glad to see you all here in person, but also any of you that are joining us on Zoom or later for the recording. We are glad you're here and you're joining us for this special message. Unity is a positive, practical form of New Thought Christianity. We follow and believe and practice the spiritual laws of Jesus. And we also recognize that there are many paths to God. And we accept and honor all of those different faith traditions. Here at Unity of Charlotte, we're a place where we're nurturing a deep, mature experience of God through the practice of these unity principles. And to put it as simply as we can, it means we're here to love and grow and serve. So thank you for being here with us this Sunday morning. Now, if you're here for the first time, we'd like to get to know you and we'd like to know that you're here. So we have a visitor's packet for you out on the little credenza as you're coming in or going out. If you're here for the first time and you're comfortable, please raise your hand and let us know. Nobody today? Okay. If you're on Zoom here for the first time and you're not here to get a visitor's packet, be sure to go online and send us an email with your information, and we'd be happy to send you a packet so you can get to know us a little bit and we can get to know you. Whether you're here for the first time or here for many, many years, we're happy and delighted to have you as a part of this spiritual community. And we're going to be starting with some announcements. The first one is this month, we are doing listening circles. This is right after the Sunday service, back in the prayer room. I'm Reverend Lisa Herklotz, and this is my husband, Reverend Jim Ernstsen. I forgot to let you know who I was. We are the new co-ministers here at Unity of Charlotte. And because we've only been here for about 2 months, we're really looking forward to getting to know you better. And what is on your heart? What's on your mind? And what are you passionate about and want to share here at Unity? And how can Unity best support you? So we're holding these listening circles after the Sunday service, and it is exactly that. We're here to listen to you. It's a time to share, not only with us, but with each other, because I know through the pandemic that a lot of that has been missing. So please, if you can, come join us this Sunday and the next 2 Sundays we will be gathering. Today is a special day because, as most of you know, tomorrow is a celebration of Martin Luther King Jr. And today there is a march uptown, you call it here at Charlotte. I'm getting to know that a little better now. We're going to be meeting at the Hal Marshall building. This is at the corner of Pfeiffer and North Tryon. And when I say we're meeting, it's those of us coming from Unity so that we can go together and walk together. Now, some of you will be going straight to the Hal Marshall building if you can't do the walk, but you want to join the wreath laying service and ceremony, and we'll look for you there. But I encourage you to join us. Reverend Jim and I will be there, and I know there's a few others who said they're going. If you have any questions about it, come see us after the service, and we'll work out some way of meeting up with you there. The other thing that's happening that I want to let you know about tomorrow, which is actually the celebration of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is Unity Worldwide Ministries is holding a very interesting celebration with a panel presentation from Unity ordained ministers who are of color. And they're going to come together, these Black ministers, to present and answer questions regarding what their experience has been and how they are honoring this day. So I invite you, this is all on Zoom. I'm sorry, not on Zoom. It's actually on Facebook. So we have a link in our newsletter, and I believe we have a link on our website, not the website, in the newsletter, or you can just go to Facebook and look up Unity Worldwide Ministries. It will probably come right up. But I would encourage you to watch that if you have a chance. It's at 4 p.m. tomorrow. Reverend Jackie Hawkins is facilitating it. She is an amazing unity minister. She's been around for a long time. She's very active and she's a wonderful spokesperson. They're also going to have music by Bukika Style and John Stringer. I don't know Bukika, I know John. He's an amazing musician. So I invite all of you to join for that. Now, we're going to be doing a book study come March. Now, March is Black History Month. And so our theme for the month of March and maybe a little bit into April is going to be inclusivity. Now, inclusivity is a much broader topic than just Black history, but because it's Black History Month, we want to focus on that particular form of where inclusivity has been missing in our history. And with this book study, Reverend Jim and I have done this book study before. It's a very powerful way to start conversation. And that's what we really want to do, is we want to start conversations, because we often don't know what we don't know, right? And I was thinking about this because I have had people ask sometimes, well, we're at Unity, we're inclusive, we love everyone. Why would we need to study this? What does this have to do with Unity principles? And I'll tell you that inclusivity is at the very heart and core of our spiritual beliefs. Because when we say we are one, we mean we are literally one of one source. And yet our expressions are diverse. But if we look at our history, that has not been manifested. And there is healing to be done, because healing means to become whole again. So these kinds of studies are critical for us to begin to heal, begin to recognize those things we're not conscious of and allow them to heal, because what is hidden can't be healed. So I really highly encourage you to join us for this book study. We does require registration because we need to send you some material before the classes meet. So please register, sign up, just send an email to admin@unityofcharlotte.org. Give us your email address, your phone number, and whether you want to attend Sundays in person after the service or Thursday nights at 7 p.m. All right. We look, that's via Zoom. Yes, thank you. Thursday nights are via Zoom, in person on Sunday. If you have any questions about it, please come see Reverend Jim or myself after the service. Then coming up in March, we're also going to begin Coffee with the Ministers. This is a Zoom every Friday at 9 a.m. starting on February 3rd. This is a casual get together with your new co-ministers to come together, to share from your heart, and to spend a little time in prayer. So we invite you to join us any Friday you have available. Just pop in and join us then. Pub Theology, which is Reverend Jim's passion and joy, will start every first Thursday at 5 p.m. and he is looking for a place to hold it. So if you have a favorite pub that has kind of a quiet area where we can sit off to the corner, please let him know. And we look forward to having you join us for that. Finally, we have some amazing ongoing offerings. They're listed here. They're also on our website and in our newsletter, links and information. So please check those out. Many of these have been going on for quite a long time and have a really solid foundation and support group there. So I invite you to those. All right. That was quite a bit of announcements. So let me take a breath here and let's come together now in prayer as I invite you to join me in saying Unity's prayer of oneness. There is one presence and one power in my life and universe, God, the good, omnipotence. And so it is. We claim and affirm this presence in our lives right now. Just a quick note that if you or a loved one is in need of any kind of prayer support, please reach out to us. That's what we're here for. You can come and let Reverend Jim and I know this. we're in the process of pulling together our prayer chaplain group again. So we'll have some active prayer chaplains supporting this, but we're here now. So let us know. You can also go online. Our website has phone numbers and links where you can reach Silent Unity, which is a 24-hour prayer service and prayer support. So I invite you to call out if you need prayer for yourself or for someone else. That's what we're here for. And the daily word. Give me just 1 second. I got to get it. I got so excited about all our announcements that I forgot to pull up our daily word. Here we go. Sunday. The daily word is world peace. I rest my heart in the peace of God. Around the world, so many souls are joining me in my prayer for peace. While the news may give more attention to points of conflict, there is a striving and a yearning in the human heart for peace. My prayer supports that desire and strengthens the bonds of love that lead to greater harmony. I begin my affirmation of world peace with a soft and open heart. I am comforted as I realize the advances the world's people have made over the generations to live together harmoniously. I make an effort to live a more peaceful life and bridge the gaps of understanding between myself and those around me. I focus my attention upon our shared desire, a peaceful world of cooperation and goodwill. This is my heartfelt prayer. And from Isaiah 26:3, those of steadfast mind you keep in peace because they trust in you. So we know we are looking for a new space to call home. We've been so grateful to have this space, to continue to have this space. I know for some of you, this has been your home for a long time, and it's been quite a shift to be moving away from it. But we have some great opportunities we're going to be checking out, and we'll be letting you know more about that as they unfold. But I'd like to have you join us in the affirmation for our space. So please join with me as we declare. We affirm we have a new home for Unity of Charlotte that fulfills every need for space and use in order to support and share our unified purpose to love, grow, and serve. And so it is. Thank you. And now I'm going to call up Reverend Jim with our message for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Reverend Lisa. Good morning. On this, let's just call it brisk morning, as we woke up and scraped the frost off our car windows this morning, but it's good to be here. It's good to have you on Zoom as well, so welcome here. Today we're going to talk about transition. And if you notice the words to Judy's song, by the way, Judy was, I consider her a friend. She was the choir director in Minneapolis, where Reverend Lisa and I did our internships. So we were there with her. She travels the world and sings. And we were blessed when she was able to drive up to St. Cloud and be in person and play her music for us in person. Playing the guitar for her is brand new. So it was really nice to hear. Yeah, she's doing a great job for only being at it for a few months, right? She, whew. Yeah, so she is now a guitar player as well. So we're going to talk about transition. We're going to talk about change. I asked her what kind of music, what kind of songs she had. And this was one of those that talked about change in her life. You know, tell the truth, I don't know if she wrote that song herself. She does write quite a bit of her own music. But before we get started, I do want to acknowledge the idea of change. First of all, you've got 2 new ministers here at Unity of Charlotte. That's change in our lives. We've just talked about and we just read the opportunity for new space. That's a transition within our lives as well. Our world is changing quicker than maybe most of us are comfortable with as well. Change and transition is uncomfortable. Let's admit that. Let's admit that. And each of us individually may also have change in our lives that we're going through. So different levels as well, personal, all the way out to worldwide change within our lives. But so let's acknowledge that and acknowledge that that may include anxiety within our lives. It may even feel like sometimes things start to swirl. Maybe there's a bit of craziness in that as well. I just want to acknowledge that. It's not necessarily an easy thing when people say, yeah, change. All right. So we're acknowledging that. Change, transition. Even when we say the words, sometimes there's a little bit of a tightening in our gut. And I admit that. I definitely. But we're going to recognize that discomfort and embrace it. That's what we're going to learn about today, is that idea of embracing that change and how do we deal with it in terms of spirituality in our spiritual lives. So we're going to embrace it here today. We're going to learn that one of our takeaways that we can leave this building with today is prayer. One of the ways we can deal with change is prayer. And we're going to get more into that. But since I was the one that brought up all the discomfort, all the anxiety, what I'd like to do is do a little exercise. So hang with me here as we do a little exercise together to kind of break up maybe some of that anxiety that I introduced here this morning. What I'd like us to try and play along with me for a second. What I'd like us to do is pretend that each one of us is a prayer chaplain here today. So play with me here. Your best friend approaches you and asks you to pray with them. And your response to them, yes, I'd be happy to pray with you. You face each other. Maybe you even reach out and hold hands. You take a deep breath. You ask, how can I help? They open their heart. They tell you all the gory details of what's going on in their life. The changes that are going on, the discomfort that they may be feeling, even down to the pain that's in their heart. They mention their frustration, their anxiety, their fear, and then they pause. And with simplicity, and yet with a moral authority, you say out loud to your friend, let's pray. You take that story that they told you, you move from your head that was gathering that information, you move down into your heart, and you feel. You've heard the details of what maybe in their life they're stuck in, and that frustration, fear, those worldly challenges that they're working through and needing some help. And as a prayer chaplain, you ask yourself the question, what is the truth of this situation? What is the spiritual truth of this situation? And you convert that in your mind, and you start to say out loud. You start to pray with your friend out loud. And it might come out such as, I feel peace in this situation, knowing that I am one with divine spirit. I affirm my oneness and connection with the universe. All that I need, right here and now is available. I am calm. I feel harmony. And I know deep peace within me. Amen. And maybe you can give that friend a hug and send them on their way. I've been a prayer chaplain, and it is one of my joys to pray with other folks. And that's just an example of maybe someone dealing with change in their life. So if there's a scripture from the Bible that illustrates the natural flow of, well, let me ask you, trivia time. What do you think would be the most appropriate scripture for change? Anybody want to guess? Ecclesiastes. Bing, 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 bing. I'll buy you the first round at Pub Theology for knowing that one. Ecclesiastes 3. For everything there is a season and a time for every matter under heaven. A time to be born, a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up what is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to tear and a time to sow. A time to keep silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. Of course, change and transition, that's exactly what that's talking about. We all experience these seasons of activity in our lives, this chance to grow, balanced as seasons of activity, also with rest and renewal as well. So said another way, life is about growth, unfoldment, and change within our lives. The Greek philosophers tell us that change is the only constant in our life as well. So that not only is change and transition natural and constant, something that we deal with all the time, but it's inevitable. We're not going to hold back that dam of change. It is inevitable that flows into our lives, and how we deal with it is a key question. The Apostle Paul wrote in 1 Corinthians, I die every day. What do we think Paul was talking about here? What did he mean in terms of I die every day? Well, he acknowledged that this metaphor, this death and then this rebirth was exactly what we go through, not only by the seasons, the months, but every single day of our lives, we go through some sort of change usually. And he equated it to a death and a rebirth. He died every day is what he was telling us in that letter to Corinth. Now, Unity author Robert Brumet, and that's the book that we're going to be looking at. Actually, this is a series. We're talking about change. We're talking about transition for the next 3 weeks. This is just the first week. Reverend Lisa will talk about the second phase. So my phase here are the endings, which Robert Brumet talks about endings within our lives. Reverend Lisa is going to talk about the void. And I'm not going to spoil it for her, but the void. And then the third piece is new beginnings. So that's the series that we're going to talk about. So Finding Yourself in Transition is the name of his book. And he talks about these 3 transitions, that ending, which is the letting go of the old and reaching out for the new. That second transition is the void, that emptiness or that wandering that she's going to talk about, that Reverend Lisa is going to talk about. And then the third, that symbolic death and rebirth within our lives. Those three different things. So let's jump right in. What is the ending? What does that talk about? And let's go ahead and go to that next slide. Poet T.S. Eliot. What we call the beginning is often the end. And to make the end is to make a beginning. The end is where we start from. Sounds a little like a riddle, doesn't it? But there it is. Beginnings and ends can be what seems to be that same thing. Endings, the poet would tell us, is not to be feared. It's natural. Endings are not to be avoided. Running away from things doesn't work. Endings can be embraced as spiritual growth within our lives into something better. We're moving from something that may be no longer serving us as well as it did in the past into something even better. That's what this transition means within our lives. And that next slide, Unity author, Reverend Eric Butterworth, absolutely my favorite Unity author, but he tells us we don't change what we are, we change what we think we are. And when I read Eric Butterworth, I always have to pause. It's like, what is he talking about sometimes? In other words, it's never the thing itself that we're struggling with. If you're struggling with something, it's not that thing. Eric Butterworth would say, it's how we interpret that thing. It's the glasses that we put on and filter through. That's what we're struggling with. It's not the thing. Hear me again. It's not the thing. It's how we interpret it. And as we change, as we struggle with it, that's us. That's what we've interpreted that to be, that struggle, that difficulty. That's the meaning that we've given it. That's our interpretation. Now, Robert Brumet, the author of this book that we're talking about, says that these meanings that we give change are truly opportunities for spiritual growth. That's one of the main takeaways from this book, is that these are opportunities and chances to look within. And we've talked a little bit about their chances to move into prayer, chances to move into meditation as well, in order to make sense out of life. This is how we make sense of things that might seem like they're happening to us. But it's that introspection, it's that, what is this really here for within my life? Prayer, meditation. It's a way for us to tap into that divine wisdom within our heart, within our soul. Now, Robert Brumet writes in the first few chapters of this book that endings are usually experienced in 4 different ways. And he talks about these 4 things, and I don't know if he did this on purpose, but they all start with D. And so it's hard for me to recall these, but I'm going to read these off of my notes, these 4 D words. So again, endings are experienced in 4 different ways. Disengagement, an uncoupling or a withdrawal from something. That is sometimes how we experience change within our lives or transition. And for example, Reverend Lisa and I, during COVID, and maybe some of you experienced something similar that yourselves, during the height of COVID, we disengaged from one of our favorite activities, which was going to the movie theater, right? That was a big change for us. And how did we deal with it? We disengaged. We didn't go to the movies for how long? 1.5 years or so, right? I think we just started a few months ago. Sitting way up in the back in the corner, kind of huddled with a mask on. But we love movies so much. That was a disengagement. This is usually an external process. So know that disengagement is disengaging from an external thing, usually. The next D word that Robert Brumet talks about, the author, is disidentification. Disidentification. On the other hand, disidentification is an internal. So instead of working with things outside of ourselves, disidentification is how we see ourselves and the roles and roles and relationships within our lives, I should say. The roles and relationships that we've identified with in the past. This is how sometimes we deal with change in our lives. For many years, I self-identified as, within my group of friends, within everybody that I talk to, people ask you, what do you do for a living? I was the IT guy. I went to school. I was, computer information systems was my major. I was the IT guy. I was the geek. That's how I identified for 30 some years. I ended up working with Blue Cross Blue Shield for the last 10 years of my career. I was the IT guy. I was the software engineer. Boy, that was embedded. I identified with that. And then I went through early retirement with them. In other words, they were going through something. They offered me a bonus to retire. And it's like, ooh, yes, I can disidentify. I shifted from IT guy to going to ministerial school. So I disidentified and I established something new. That was change. The third D word, disenchantment. Disenchantment. I hear a couple of, yeah, I can identify with that. Disenchantment, sometimes, not always, but sometimes change comes through disenchantment. It may seem like you're waking up from a spell, maybe. It's kind of what some people describe this as. Maybe it's an addiction. You're waking up from that thing. Maybe it's something else that you have become, that you lived with, but you've become disenchanted with. One example that I could think of was spending an enormous amount of time and energy when I was younger, accumulating material goods, right? When I was in my 20s and 30s, it was all about the new car. It was all about, can I afford a bigger house? How about a fancy vacation? I identified with material things. It was what I had that defined me in my 20s and 30s. I got disenchanted with that and introduced change into my life. That's no longer important to me. So disenchantment was the third one. Fourth one, disorientation. This is a way of experiencing an ending as well. To look and feel confused during a loss or a change within. It may seem like a loss of direction. It might even feel like that old navigational map that you've used in the past no longer works. It's like your GPS just stopped working. And it's like, well, what's going on here in my life? You even may ask yourself, who am I? That may be the disorientation in your life as you go through this transition. You may ask yourself, what is my place? What is my new place within the world? That may be the disorientation that you're experiencing through this. So those are the 4 Ds that the author talked about. So we've talked about the endings. The endings, first of those 3 things, the endings, the void, the new beginnings. But one of the things that we do want to is what is our takeaway? What is the practical thing that we're going to do here when daily, like the Apostle Paul, daily that change is going to come knocking at your door? What are we going to do practically? What are the things that we can find ourselves doing once we feel a little uncomfortable with this thing that showed up, this change, this transition? Well, within Unity, one of the things that we say is we are practical Christians. This is practical Christianity, is what we like to say. So let's dig in. What is it that we can do? Well, we mentioned earlier, prayer, right? A cornerstone, a key thing to what we do. And I'd like to point out that this is affirmative prayer. This isn't a prayer that we might think of in our childhood where we asked for something, or we begged for something, or we pleaded for something. Oh God, please give me this thing, right? That is not affirmative prayer. When I say we move into affirmative prayer, this is a statement of what we know to be spiritually true. I affirm I am a child of God. Sickness does not rule my life. I'm going to paraphrase. So an affirmative statement. I know that I am one with the universe. I know that there's no separation between me and the world. Those are affirmative things that we can move into affirmative prayer. Prayer, meditation. That's the second practical thing that we can do as individuals when we're feeling the pain and anxiety of change. Moving within, going into the silence, taking a moment. Charles Fillmore called this going to headquarters, so that you can get in touch with the divine within. And maybe even that aha moment. Oh, this thing showed up in my life. It's uncomfortable, but you know what? I'm going to take a step in this direction. That's what going to headquarters means. Or the third thing that I came up with, and maybe you have even fourth, fifth, sixth practical things that you'd like to share with me afterwards. But that third thing is reaching out to a good friend, someone that understands this process as well, someone who will listen with an open heart and maybe even remind you of some of these principles that we're talking about, remind you that you are divine, remind you that you have all the answers within. You need not look outside for those external things. You have the spiritual answers yourself. That's what a friend can remind you. Call them on the phone, buy them a cup of coffee, listen. Blessings. Oh, now we get a chance to move into meditation. This is a different flow than I'm used to, but let's go ahead and take this time. Get yourself comfortable as we move into meditation. I invite you to set aside anything you might have on your lap. Let your feet be planted on the ground. Ground yourself in this earth. Find a place for your hands. If that's in your lap, palms can be up or down, whatever's most comfortable. And if you're comfortable closing your eyes, I invite you to find your breath. And when I say that, I just mean notice your breath. And maybe even where it shows up in your body. Do you feel your belly moving in and out with each breath? For me, I feel my breath at my nostrils. I feel that cool air coming in, and I feel the warm air leave my nostrils. That's where I find my breath. But we notice that cycle. We notice that breath, and we slow down, and we calm, and we breathe. We know that this is our natural state, this calm, this feeling of love, this feeling of harmony within our lives. And we focus on that spiritual quality each and every day, that harmony within our lives. Even through the changes that happen, we still touch that harmony. And my consciousness becomes one of anticipation. Whatever's going on in my life, I can expect that peace. I can expect that harmony. I simply have to stop and breathe. This simple act of turning within, opening my heart, and listening makes all the difference in the world. I am so grateful. I know deep down within that there is never a time or a place where I am alone. I am never separated from that divine presence. And that gives me such hope. That gives me such comfort. I notice my breath again, and I let it drop me down a little bit deeper into this time, allowing for a space, that space between the inhale and the exhale. And we continue with that cycle of the breath, that noticing of the space, as we move into a minute or two of silence. And as we begin to come out of this silence, we just notice. We notice how we feel. How does your body feel? How does your heart space feel? And if you're experiencing a tiny bit of peace, know that you can claim that anytime in the days ahead. You can always get back into this space. Start to move around, become aware of this room again, opening your eyes when it feels right, feeling that blessing in your life. And we know that it is so. Namaste.
So I'd like to take this time now to move us into our offertory blessing. And this is a time when we offer the space to practice knowing that as we give, we receive. And I invite you to join us in our offertory blessing, which is coming right there. It is. Just a reminder that it is through your generous giving that Unity of Charlotte is able to continue to shine its light in this community. So we invite you to look into your hearts and into your pockets as we join together in our offertory blessing. Joyously, I give this gift, knowing the divine presence blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you, God. The light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. The presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well.